The Battle of Bazentin Ridge was fought on the 14th of July 1916, 2 weeks after the first day of the Battle of the Somme, which claimed nearly 60,000 British casualties, of which nearly 20,000 lost their lives. The Battle of Bazentin Ridge was a success and saw many tactical innovations that would have provided an advantage on the 1st of July 1916. Moving thousands of men into the front line to launch an assault was rarely achieved with complete surprise. As such, it was quite common for artillery and trench mortar fire to be used against such movements, but this time it was different. A short 5-minute barrage was sent against German positions, a far cry from the much longer barrages the British had hitherto employed. Furthermore, Allied air superiority blinded German observers to a great extent, depriving them of identifying the telltale signs of an impending assault. Again, another lesson learnt from the slaughter 2 weeks prior saw troops crawl into no man's land. Less distance to cover across no man's land could easily translate into less casualties. James Edward Edmonds' Official History of the War states, "Surprised by the shortness of the intensive and most effective bombardment, by the deployment of the stormers so near in the dark, and by the creeping barrage of high explosive, the enemy made feeble and spasmodic resistance to the first onslaught." What follows is a brief account of a small action fought by the 8th Brigade, who encountered that spasmodic resistance and paid a heavy price, one that resonated in a Midlands county for decades to come. The unusually calm deployment of troops was not lost on the 8th Brigade, whose war diary makes reference to only one casualty being sustained during its move towards their final assembly positions. By 11 p.m. on the 13th of July 1916, the men of the 7th Battalion King's Shropshire Light Infantry were in position, face down in the mud. 4 hours later, all troops of the brigade were in position, ready to assault German trenches. With some troops waiting in no man's land for more than 4 hours, the wait must have been terrifying. The 5-minute barrage opened up at 3:20 and crept forward 15 yards at a time. This would offer protection to troops as they crossed no man's land and laying waste to German defences. Some fell short and caused friendly casualties. The Shropshires and Scots then advanced in the dim light. The first row of German wire was cut in several places, but another entanglement beyond was undamaged. In the face of heavy rifle and machine gun fire and showers of bombs, every gallant attempt to get through this obstacle failed. The Shropshires fell back unwillingly to the cover of shell holes and a sunken road. Their colonel, who had led the assault, remained wounded at the wire, and fell in German hands. It was expected that German wire would pose a problem, but a limited one, the expectation being that artillery employed to cut wire would have completed the task to a suitable level. This was not the case. Almost immediately it was discovered that considerable thicker and untouched wire crossed the path of the advancing troops. The assaulting battalions, those who waited for hours in no man's land, were halted within seconds of beginning their advance. With the supporting barrage over and an attack being an obvious occurrence, German troops at once manned their positions and raked the ground with machine gun and rifle fire, not to mention grenades and mortars. In the darkness of the night and unable to navigate through the wire, British troops stood to be slaughtered. Edmonds' Official History of the War states that there was just light enough to distinguish friend from foe at 3:25 in the morning. Not one man in the assaulting wave of the 7th Shropshires managed to make it through the wire. As the succeeding waves of troops advanced, they too were met by a murderous fire. The majority of troops lay on the ground, behind embankments or in shell holes, their only way to avoid certain death. Unable to retreat or advance, the situation was hopeless for the Shropshires and Scots. Some troops somehow managed to navigate through what cut wire existed, one being the commanding officer of the 7th Shropshires, Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Negus, but he sustained a serious gunshot wound to the groin and was taken prisoner. The other assaulting battalion of the 8th Brigade fared similarly, the 1st Royal Scots being held down by heavy fire, and also had their commanding officer wounded. With reports trickling back to brigade headquarters that not all seemed to be going as planned, Captain Smithard of the brigade's Advanced Report Centre went to the front line to see what was occurring for himself, and if possible assist the situation. Captain Smithard's situational report saw 2 companies of the 2nd Royal Scots sent to assault the extreme left of the brigade's front, the hope being that pressure could then be put on the flank of the German defenders. Meanwhile, elements of the 1st Royal Scots were assaulting the other flank. At 11 a.m., nearly 8 hours after the assault began, Captain W.L. Lloyd, of the Shropshires, succeeded in manoeuvring through the wire and launched another assault. This time, the German defenders were more hard-pressed. Their flanks were closing and they were met with Captain Lloyd's determined assault. This pressure succeeded in driving the Germans from their positions. In doing so, Lieutenant Colonel Negus was rescued. The battle was not yet over, as the brigade had to defend against several German counterattacks, all completed successfully. After the battle, determined to identify why the assault was met with such difficulty, officers of the brigade noted that the Germans possessed deep, well-protected dugouts where it was believed there would be none at all. Furthermore, the wire was practically untouched except on the left. Heavy artillery was evident in front of the wire and between the German front and support lines, but not where the wire needed cutting. German defenders were safely in deep dugouts when the artillery passed overhead. With the wire being uncut, there was plenty of time to man the trenches. Had the wire been cut, British troops would likely have been able to enter the trenches as the Germans were leaving their dugouts. The Shropshires, from a strength of approximately 33 officers and 905 men, were left with 6 officers and 135 men after the assault. It is important to note that such differences rarely, if ever, equate in terms of actual deaths. Missing and wounded troops account for substantial numbers. In the space of 8 to 10 hours, the Shropshire sustained 163 killed and 294 wounded. By comparison, the 1st Royal Scots suffered 77 killed, 168 wounded and 40 men missing. The brigade's war diary states the loss of 48 officers and 1,217 men as casualties. This includes dead, missing and wounded. The brigade at the time may have had 3,600 to 4,000 men. The regimental history of the King's Shropshire Light Infantry states this action practically annihilated what was left of the original battalion, within 12 months of their landing in France. Colonel Raymond Negus was awarded a Distinguished Service Order for his actions, his citation stating, "For conspicuous gallantry in action. When unable to find an opening in the enemy's wire, he continued to hack his way through under very heavy rifle and machine gun fire, till he was badly wounded. He set a fine example to his men." Raymond went on to become the chairman of the 7th Shropshire's Old Comrades Association, travelling across the country many times to attend events. His son, squadron leader Michael Negus, was killed in action over occupied Europe during the Second World War. Raymond died in Essex in July 1950 at the age of 67. Captain Richard Smithard won the Military Cross for the following: for conspicuous gallantry as intelligence officer. Prior to the attack, he reconnoitred the enemy's position in front of our line on several occasions. When the attack was held up by wire, he got accurate information of the situation and, by working across the open to a flank, was able to support bomb and machine gun attacks, which inflicted heavy losses on the enemy and assisted much in the capture of the position. He would later be promoted to Major and win a Distinguished Service Order. He continued to serve in the army until his untimely death from a heart attack at the age of 47 on the 4th of January 1939 in Pembrokeshire. Like Colonel Negus, Richard's son, Richard Maclean Smithard lost his life during the Second World War while serving with the Royal Navy in the Mediterranean. Captain Wilfred Lewis Lloyd won the Military Cross for his actions with the Shropshires on the 14th of July 1916. The following year he transferred to the Indian Army. He served throughout the interwar period and reached the rank of Major General. During the Second World War he won the Distinguished Service Order twice and was made Commander of the Order of the British Empire. Wilfred was commanding the 10th Indian Division when he was accidentally killed in Egypt, the 22nd of January 1944. He was 47 years of age. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the video informative.